Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barbies and Kens, Kellys of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and with me I have my wonderful co-host, the blue fuzzball who's full of joy and odd noises, John.
I will not answer to that.
For those of you just joining us, we are a podcast about Barbie movies. Every week we watch one of the straight-to-DVD Barbie animated movies, and we rate its story, its characters, its animation, its voice acting, and its music to see how it stacks up. This week we will be talking about the 5th animated Barbie movie, Barbie Fairytopia.
Wow, that's a great script you have there. Very
Thanks.
original. I feel like I've heard it before.
Yeah. Might be taking some notes from trying to make our introduction a little bit more professional. Or not professional.
Tarantino, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, yes. This is Tarantino's podcast introduction script.
Yes. Minus the F words and other stuff.
Yeah.
There's no feet in this one.
Nope. Had to edit that paragraph out.
Mm.
Today we are here to talk about Barbie Fairytopia. This was released on March 6, 2005. This is the first of these Barbie movies to first air on TV. It aired on Nickelodeon, and then 2 days later released on DVD. This is also the first Barbie movie to release less than a year after the last movie. This released 6 months after Princess and the Pauper, and 2005 was the first year that 2 animated Barbie movies were released in the same year.
Oh.
So they're expanding.
Wow, yeah. For the good? We'll
see. Yeah. And to help out with this, they've actually brought in a new, well, mostly new behind-the-scenes team. This is directed by Walter P. Marthisius. He's worked on a lot of these Barbie movies so far. He's been a production and set designer on every movie since Barbie Rapunzel. But he's also been a production designer on other movies such as Terminator 2, Super Mario Bros., Demolition Man, The House with a Clock in Its Walls. So he's kind of been around. You can kind of tell he has a certain aesthetic with the movies he chose prior to the Barbie movies, sort of these post-apocalyptic, grungy robot.
Fits Bibble perfectly.
Yeah. No, Bibble would make sense in Terminator 2. And yeah, we have, in addition to him, we have Will Lau, who directed Princess and the Pauper. He is co-directing here.
It doesn't show.
Yeah. No, you can't quite tell that this is maybe a bit of a step down in quality from the last movie.
Maybe a step down, yeah.
And yeah, we also have a new writing team this time around. We have Elise Allen, who mainly did TV and DVD writing, a lot of kids content, and she actually worked on 14 Barbie movies, starting with this one. And then we have Diane Duane, who is another TV writer who worked on Gargoyles and Star Trek The Next Generation and Batman the Animated Series. But this is her only Barbie movie. She didn't make any before, she doesn't write any after.
Mm-hmm.
Music is by Eric Colvin. This is his first Barbie movie as the composer, stepping in for Arnie Roth, who was working on the next Barbie movie, which we'll be talking about next week. So yeah, we have, this is the first original Barbie adventure, not based on any other material, and it was developed by Mattel because they wanted to establish a franchise alongside the princess movies to kind of maybe draw in a new audience, and launch a new line of dolls. And it was a pretty smart move on their part. At this point in time, Disney had pretty much completely stopped making princess movies, so princesses were less relevant in the pop culture, but fairies had kind of had a resurgence in popularity in 2004 with the Winx Club TV show. And then Barbie Fairytopia came out a year after that in 2005. And then Disney actually made their own fairy franchise with the Tinkerbell movies starting in 2008, and that ran through 2015.
Yeah, and that first movie has the exact same plot of this film.
Yeah, they are very similar in a lot of ways.
Which one was better? That's up to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So yeah, Barbie Fairytopia, this is the first in a trilogy of Fairytopia movies, and then there are also a few spin-offs later. We'll be talking about all of those very soon because they came out one right after the other. So these movies follow Alina, played by Kelly Sheridan, who's a fairy. She lives beyond the rainbow in this mystical land, ruled by the Enchantress. And Alina is different than all of the other fairies because she doesn't have wings. So, when the evil Laverna releases a fog that makes it so that all of the fairies can't fly, Alina is the only person who is able to save the kingdom. And so she goes on an adventure and meets various friends throughout the way and leaves most of them behind at one point or another. She's good at meeting people, but not good at keeping them around. And yeah, then she, through the magic of her, she has like the rainbow in her eye.
Yeah.
Which means she's special. There isn't much explained about that. But
No.
Because of that, she's able to defeat Laverna and save the kingdom. And then the Enchantress gives her wings for all of her trouble. So yeah, it's a pretty typical adventure story.
Yeah.
The plot it follows all the beats you would expect for the most part.
Is there a plot?
Yeah, it's
Alina just
so...
goes off to do her civic duty and warn the others.
Yeah.
She ends up at the villain's house and somehow saves the day by throwing a necklace at a rock.
Yeah, it's so standard that it kind of feels like there isn't a plot.
No.
It kind of moves from beat to beat a little mechanically. There is somewhat of an episodic structure where there's like little self-contained adventures that then, Alina might, here she has to escape from some birds. Now she has to find the dryad in this wood. But
sure.
It's not really, none of the beats are interesting enough to make the plot more interesting.
Yeah. It's also, they're trying to set up this world without really setting up the world.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of background world building.
Yeah, and like they're telling the story as if, the characters exist in the story. Which, you want your characters to be part of the world. But your audience needs a character to be them, who experiences the history of this world. And if you don't have that, then you give us a 5-minute prologue in the beginning of your story telling us this is the creation of how our land came to be. We have the Enchantress and her sister Laverna. We have fairies who created guardians with necklaces. By the way, here's Barbie, who doesn't have one. Let's start a story here, shall we? They didn't do that, and so the entire time I'm trying to figure out, okay, why is this one important? I don't know. They don't look important to me. They're pretty useless. Who's the Enchantress? I don't know. She shows up at the end to give Barbie a pair of wings. Laverna stays at home all day. Pretty much.
She bakes.
She bakes. She does evil things. But she never leaves that area. She's always in the same spot.
Yeah, we know there's some history with her where some people think she's like a myth, and then other people know she isn't, and then turns out she's the sister of the Enchantress, and it's... Personally, I didn't have a problem with the world building, but I've also seen this movie quite a few times.
I just needed 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes in the beginning telling us this is the world. This is our economy.
Yeah.
Like, nothing too complex. Just saying, yeah, we have these characters. They help build this world. One's evil, one's good. We got fairies. We got leaders.
Yeah, I don't know that, because they mention that there are 7 regions or realms of Fairytopia, but they never really clearly establish even what those regions are.
Yeah.
Like, we have the Magic Meadow, we have the, like, Laverna's Lair, we have the whatever Azura's house is in, and then we have the Wildering Woods.
Right.
But you would hope that a movie that promises there are 7 realms would then at least let us know what these realms are.
Right, because just like even in Princess and the Pauper, like they gave us a story of the world, like these 2 girls born in the same day. By the way, our economy is going to crap and we need a prince. They told us this in the prologue.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings starts off telling us this history of rings of powers and different species going against war against the One Ring. That does more to set up its world than this thing does.
Yes.
That's a very good comparison to make. They're both on the same level, of course. Lord of the Rings and Barbie.
Yes. I was going to say the Barbie and the Princess and the Pauper and the Lord of the Rings trilogy are iconically the 2 best fantasy movies of all time.
Yes.
But that is an important point to bring up, that the world is so important to this movie, and yet it doesn't make as much of, like, there's no effort put in to make sure the audience is on the same page as the characters. Which I do kind of like, that things are revealed like organically through the narrative. But I've also seen this movie a lot of times as a kid, so I already knew things like who the Enchantress is. So I can definitely see how, for a first-time viewer, it's gonna be more confusing than interesting.
Right. It's more so I just really want explanations that they are not given.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, the character arcs this time around also don't work.
Arcs? You're
Yeah.
saying there were arcs in this film?
Alina has a tiny bit of an arc, but it doesn't work out. And I'll talk about that more once we get to her character. But you need an arc for your main character.
Or any character.
Or any... Ideally, your main character has at least a little bit of an arc throughout the story.
And a motivation.
And a motivation that is communicated to the audience. I guess she wants to save her house.
Yeah.
That's kind of the clearest. Her sentient
but
house.
that's more so the motivation of what happens in the plot, not what's her goal in life. Like in the last film. What's her face? Wanted to go and explore the world and be a singer. Here,
Erica.
We don't know what Alina wants. Does she want to fly? I'm going to assume so, but she doesn't say that.
Yeah. That's one of the problems when you remove the musical element, which is what made Princess and the Pauper work.
It's not just the musical element. It's just like basic motivation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Bibble, I wish I could be up there with them.
Yeah. But, I mean, the reason Princess and the Pauper works in that regard is that it starts out with a song where the characters tell you exactly what they want. Here, it would have worked so much better if Alina at the beginning of the movie was like, I want to fly so that I can fit in with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when everyone else starts to get sick and can't fly anymore, and they can't walk because they aren't used to walking, she could be like, oh, now I'm the only person who can solve this problem.
Right. Instead, she goes to solve the problem because it's the right thing to do, not because
Yes.
I'm the only one who can.
Yeah. There is a certain element of she's the only one who can, so that's why she does it, but it isn't communicated that way.
Other characters know that she's the only one that she can, but
Yeah,
not her.
yeah.
Which seems to be a problem with the earlier Barbie films.
Yeah.
Like the early one, like Nutcracker and Swan Lake, I guess.
Yeah. Now there is this element in this movie that I like, which is that there really isn't a romance plot in this movie. Now there is a hint of one.
Oh,
Barbie
yeah.
briefly meets the merman Nalu.
I think this is the most shallow hint of romance I've ever seen.
Which, personally, after 4 just romance movies, 3 of which had mediocre romances.
Like, it's also especially since the last one was just really good. This one's
Yeah.
just pathetic.
And that is, I was wondering while watching this, if we had seen this after, like right after Swan Lake, what would we evaluate it as? Because Princess and the Pauper is a tough act to follow up.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie doesn't feel like it's even trying to be on the same level.
No.
But I do prefer having no romance subplot to a bad romance subplot.
I mean, at least it would have added a plot to the plot.
Yeah, it would have.
Mm.
But I don't know where you would fit it.
Nowhere. That's why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
At least it's great that they didn't do something, but they had 10 seconds of them staring at each other. Which is clear they needed to fill time, because this film is not the proper hour 20 minutes.
Yeah. It is. So there are 2 sequels to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps that is foreshadowing something. And perhaps by pointing that out, I am foreshadowing.
Wow. Foreshadowing in a Barbie film. My goodness.
Yes.
We are setting up a multiverse.
Yes. We're entering the BCU. Actually, no, it's more of the FCU, the Fairytopia Cinematic Universe.
The BFCU.
The BFCU. Yes. The Barbie Fairytopia Cinematic Universe, for anyone who is confused by that acronym.
Yes. Our 2 listeners.
Yes. Thanks for listening, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We can still do this without you, but we're glad you're here.
Yep.
Yeah, she goes along this journey. She meets characters, I guess. Like Azula. What's her name? Aluza?
Azula, I think Azula is her name.
Azura.
Azura.
Yes. Azula is a different character. Azura, we meet the other one. The
Laverna,
Dryad.
Dahlia, the Dryad. We meet Hugh.
Dandelion was the friend who just disappeared.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, go on alone. I can't fly. Here's an interesting note. Several times the characters go through that flying mist and they can't fly. Except for Bibble.
Yeah.
Who has no problem flying.
Bibble might be the strongest character in this entire movie, just in terms of pure raw strength.
Who chooses just not to do anything because he doesn't care. It's like, I want to go to that flower petal, take a nap. I'll hang out with this, I don't know. I'll just hang out with this girl. That's all he wants, is to hang out with Barbie.
Yeah. I am confused about the relationship between Elena and Bibble. Like, are they friends? Is he her pet? Is she his pet?
Bibble is a minion to the character. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Because Megamind had minion.
Yes. And Despicable Me had minions. And Alina has Bibble.
Yes.
Just think, if this movie had come out 5 years later, then instead of Minions memes, we would have Bibble memes.
Oh, Lord.
Like a picture of Bibble with like a beige background that says, "Sometimes I forget to brush my teeth."
Mm-hmm. Peak of comedy.
Oh, great. Now I need to post this on the Instagram. I'll make a mental note of that for later.
Write that down.
The story this time around, I think it's serviceable, but not spectacular.
It's basic, but more basic than the last basic ones. Just plain.
Yeah, at the very least, it doesn't do the Swan Lake thing of introducing far too many story ideas and then getting lost.
I really wanted this to be an ensemble film, like halfway through, when we have all these characters that show up and then leave. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if on this journey she made all these friends and they all fought in the end?
Yeah.
Being the lesson that Zura has the entire film. Friends I haven't met yet.
Yes. For Alina, it's the friend she hasn't met and then abandoned on the top of a tree yet.
Yes.
That
at least that butterfly was consistent.
Yeah.
That weird butterfly.
So I gave the story a 3.5 out of 5. Again, not spectacular, but it wasn't bad. This wasn't Nutcracker.
Sure, but it was kind of getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a very generous 3.
Okay. Yeah, similar scores there.
Yeah.
But since we were talking about Alina abandoning people, that is honestly my biggest issue with her character.
Okay.
Is that she is supposed to be, her flaw in this movie that she has to learn from is supposed to be that she is self-doubting.
Right.
But the problem is she never acts like she doubts herself. Everyone else kind of does. But if anything, she isn't saying, "Oh, I don't know if I could do this." She's telling other characters, "No, you can't do this." She's constantly abandoning, or not really abandoning, but leaving people behind and like, "No, you have to stay here because you're sick, and Bibble, you have to watch out for him, so I'm going by myself." And it starts at the very beginning when you have her friend Dandelion and her are talking, and they're like, "What do we do about the sickness? Oh, we need to talk to Azura." And Alina, without hesitation, says, "Okay, I'm going."
Yeah.
And it is Bibble who's like, "No, I don't want to go." Bibble's the one who refuses the call in this hero's journey.
Right.
Which, if Alina is supposed to be the self-doubting character, but she never actually doubts herself, it doesn't ever hinder her until the very end of the movie when she gets hypnotized.
And
it's, I don't know, it means that her character arc doesn't land, because she doesn't ever act differently. She's always...
Yeah.
Her self-doubt is never a character trait. It's just like a thing someone wrote on a piece of paper as like, "This is the message of the movie."
Yeah, she also has the rainbow eye thing.
Yeah.
Which is... it's something.
Yeah. And I think they could have done something interesting with her character. Because she is this character within this world who has what is essentially a disability, but it's
Mhm.
something that once this fog comes in that stops people from flying, she is really the only one who can complete this quest.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting story for a character who struggles with self-doubt, to be like, well, I don't know if I can do it. Well, you're literally the only one who can do it, so you better do it. Or you can
Right.
have the other arc where the self-doubting character feels like, oh, I have to do this in order for people to like me. And then along the adventure, she would make friends and then be like, oh no, my friends, I find worth through other things besides my ability to save the world.
Mhm.
But here she starts out with Bibble and Dandelion as her friends, and then throughout the movie she's constantly leaving her friends behind to go by herself. And that isn't even the message. There's never a moment where she's like, oh, I shouldn't have left these people behind. They could have helped me here.
No.
She just always kind of does the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was maybe a bit of a rant, but
No, it's a good rant. It's a good point to make. She just doesn't have much going for her besides that she's the main character.
yeah.
Like I was expecting more to happen. It's like there's a moment where she has a Zoro's necklace and that one fairy guy is like, "Why do you have that necklace?" And she runs away. And I was
Yeah.
expecting her to be framed for kidnapping, but nothing ever came of that. Uh,
Yeah.
Nothing ever came from the mermaids, uh, or the Rice Krispies. That's what I'm calling those weird little things.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's no sense of progression with her character.
right.
She doesn't start the movie being like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, and then at the end say, oh, I know exactly that I can do this. Nor
Who's
does she.
Topaz?
Topaz is the guardian in charge of Alina's realm, the Magic Meadow.
Mm. Oh yeah, so that was like another issue going like back in the story about how they didn't set up the world. Like, oh, Topaz has been kidnapped. Well, who's Topaz? Why do we care? I don't know.
Yeah, and they have this cool thing where each of the leaders of the realms, the seven realms, is a different color of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
But they never, like, do anything with that or even explain that that is what is going on.
Yes, but
It's,
Alina controls the rainbow by the end. I don't know.
yeah, there's just, it's missing that extra little bit of world building
Mm-hmm.
to explain everything to the audience and just lay it out. Okay, Fairytopia is ruled by seven wise guardians, each one corresponding to a color of the rainbow, and here are the seven regions.
Mm-hmm.
And the Enchantress rules over all. And she's wise and just. But no, there's nothing to latch on to. You're just kind of thrown into it, and you either latch on to something or flounder about for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, we can talk about Bibble,
Bibble.
the the star of the show, the puffball himself, fuzzy blue puffball. He's not cute. Like, you would think they would lean into like more typically cute elements,
Uh-huh.
but something about his design.
It's more nightmarish than cute. Like, what's funny? I only find him funny is when he looks angry. Because, like, I just can just imagine the idea of, like, this evil characteristic coming from Bibble that no one expects.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was honestly surprised rewatching this how little of a role he plays in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not as memorable as I remembered him being.
Maybe that's later films.
That might be later films. I think he gets an expanded role.
Oh.
But yeah, in this one he's just kind of tagging along for the adventure, and they only
he has
really
a speech impediment. Can't
yeah
speak.
maybe
Just
he's
gurbles.
yeah, he's annoying, but not in like a way that derails the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's just the annoying of the moment.
Yeah. He's a character who only exists when they need comic relief for a scene.
Right. And to add color
Yes.
when all we have is pink.
Speaking of color, we next up have Dandelion, who is the only fairy at the beginning who's actually friends with Alina.
Yeah.
And very early on, she gets sick from this fog, and she leaves Alina and goes home. And you don't really miss her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she isn't annoying when she's there, and then Alina's just like, go home, and you're like, okay.
She's just that friend.
Yeah. This could have been an opportunity to have, like, a Samwise Gamgee type character.
Oh, that was Bipple.
Oh, I can't do the Bibble voice. Otherwise, I would try doing some Samwise Gamgee quotes with Bibble.
You know, I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you.
I can't carry it for you, Alina Poof, but I can carry you.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that is what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you could imagine a version of this movie which is Elena doesn't, like, has this self-doubt, and then Dandelion is sort of her, like, her spokesperson, or like the person who's being like, no, you can do this, you got it, go.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, Elena's already the one who's being like, I got this, I can do this. So Dandelion just doesn't do anything.
Like, okay, thanks, you got it. I'll
Yep.
sit back here. Does she congratulate Alina when she get wings?
I don't know.
I don't remember. But anyway, we have Azura, the blue one.
Yeah. She seems a little bit lonely. She sets her dinner table for the friends she hasn't met.
I don't know why she's lonely when she has all these guards watching over her palace who just are terrible. They have these little goblins come in and kidnap a girl and they don't even notice. Like the last film didn't have any guards, but this one they have a bunch of guards that don't do anything.
She seems very much like she's very much a 2020 mood, because she stayed inside to get away from the sickness, and then she's setting her table for the friends she hasn't met because she's lonely. She's
supposed to be like this wise person,
and she's not wise. She knows.
She recognizes the butterfly, the rainbow in her eyes.
Yeah,
it's like, rainbow's eyes. That's important. What? I don't know. Here, have my necklace. Here's my necklace.
Well, yeah, and she recognizes that she's gonna get kidnapped, and that the people who are kidnapping her aren't going to see, like the fungus who kidnap her aren't going to see Alina as a threat. So she's like, oh yeah, I can leave this with her. And then, yeah, after that, all she really does is sit around and sass Laverna.
Yeah, during the ending sequence where Alina shows up to Laverna's palace, all the fairies are just sitting there. Like, there's nothing preventing them from speaking, but they're not saying a word. Like, not even Laverna, not even Azura, who's like, no, it's a trap. Like, no one says anything. They just sit there, look at Alina, just show up, Look at her caged friends. And it's not till Alina is about to take away Azuro's necklace that she finally says, "No, think of the friends you haven't met yet." She's like, "No, don't do it. You can resist." She's like, "Stop that. Think of your friends." And it works.
Yeah.
It's just a weird moment at the end that they probably forgot about.
Yeah, there maybe should have been a line of... Because you could see those Guardian characters reacting to her showing up. Being like, what, a wingless fairy? And then Azura being like, oh, you're finally here.
Yeah, there's no Walla done, it seems, for this.
Yeah.
It was just, there they are.
No, this is a perfect point to talk about Laverna.
Oh, Laverna.
The very hospitable evil villain.
She does her role as the villain, of course.
Yeah, she bakes for her prisoners. I think that's kind of sweet.
She's very idle as well, because she never leaves her palace to do anything. Yeah. She's also in the same room every time we see her, which is interesting. Like, at least the Rat King left to go and confront people. Laverna just stays at home.
She's got her fungus to do stuff for her. She needs to bake some cookies.
Right. Bake some cookies. Put her sister to sleep.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I mean, she's not as memorable as a lot of the other villains. And very, very, like... This is the first Barbie movie where they didn't bring in a celebrity voice actor for the villain. Which, we'll talk about it in the voice acting, but I do think the voice actress Kathleen Barr does a good job.
I will say more later.
There might be a little bit of, like, pizzazz that the character is missing.
Sure. Like, her main motivation is power, again.
Yeah. Her plan is entirely based on, like... I mean, it's a good plan. It's a good plan. She's gonna poison the whole kingdom and then come in as the savior.
Steal the rainbow from all the fairies.
Yeah. Now, this is a classic Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb plotline.
Yes.
Where she's gonna take something away from everyone else, and then she will be the only one. And then she will rule the entire Fairytopia area.
Then Barbie shows up. It's like, no. She throws a necklace at her crystal. It cracks. And she gets defeated by the rainbow.
Yep. The rainbow turns her into confetti.
It's a better solution than in Swan Lake.
Yep. Now, I will say, in Laverna's defense, she has two really good things going for her. First,
she does.
She has cool insect wings
that
look very evil. I thought that was a really good character design touch. That everyone else has sort of these, like, leaf-inspired wings or butterfly wings. But Laverna has, like, fly wings. So that was kind of neat. And then also, the biggest thing is, she doesn't underestimate Alina at any point. In fact, the moment someone says, wingless fairy, she's like, oh no, a wingless fairy is like the one person who can stop me. We gotta do something about her.
Yeah.
Because so often, when you have a character who has, like, some sort of disability in a movie, they're treated as less of a threat by the villain. Whereas here, Laverna correctly notices, okay, she's like the one person who could ruin everything for me. And I think that's just like a really cool thing to do, to have Laverna be smart enough to recognize that. And then she does kind of bring that back, where the way she tempts Alina when she puts Alina under hypnosis is saying, like, hey, you've been ostracized by the world, you feel left out, I can make it so that you are no longer left out.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment kind of makes you go, oh yeah, Laverna really does understand Alina enough to know what's going on.
Yeah. By the way, have some wings.
And they are somewhat creepy insect-like wings, but you get the sense that this is everything Alina has maybe wanted, at least in the scene. Throughout the movie, you don't get that sense.
Do you know
but,
something?
Yeah?
Alina only has one outfit.
Yes. I think all of the characters in this movie only have one outfit.
That's not very toyetic. I mean, the wings are. So you can buy the character with wings, without wings, with the evil wings.
Yeah.
I guess. But the same outfit.
Yeah, I'll have to look up the dolls for this to see. I
Mm.
believe my sister owned one of the dolls.
Mm-hmm.
They did have sort of color swapped fairies that were like tied in but don't show up in the movie.
Right.
There's some more dolls for like later movies in the franchise. But yeah, it is interesting that she only really has that one outfit. There's no costume change or anything, which probably makes it a lot easier to animate.
Mm-hmm.
And given that, this is 6 months since the last Barbie movie, 2005 is the first year with 2 Barbie movies, so maybe it makes sense that they're not gonna. And this movie has such an emphasis on production design and sets and locations.
Right. The rest of the characters are pretty much the same. There's not really
Yeah.
much about them.
Yeah, I think all of them could have been more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Dahlia the
In some
Dryad
way.
has this backstory where she once worked for
She
Laverna.
could be so much more
Yeah.
interesting. She could be a part of the team.
Yeah. And you could maybe see her backstory, but no, it's just like, oh yeah, I worked for her once.
I don't even remember what even happens to her in the film.
She gets kidnapped, or not kidnapped, but captured in the end.
When?
She's on Hugh's back when Hugh is distracting the Firebirds.
Oh, was she in the cage as well?
Yeah. Yeah, she was captured at that same time.
Okay, well.
Yeah, she doesn't make much of an impact because Alina meets her and then is like in the next scene, okay, bye, I gotta do this myself.
Mm.
Like, you could imagine this movie as Alina is wandering through these lands, and then she's like meeting people, and they're joining her group. But instead, every time she meets someone new, she's like, okay, bye. I'm gonna do this myself. Hugh's kind of the one who sticks around a bit.
Right, but I don't really care about Hugh.
His character design is interesting, but he's very blandly devoted to his duty.
He's just there to get us to the next location.
They could have done something with his character as well.
He's kind of weird looking, really.
Prince Nalu doesn't leave much of an impression.
I don't know who that is.
He's the
Is that the
merman.
mermaid?
Yep.
Oh.
The fungus, they're
Ugly looking dobbies.
yeah. They do finish each other's sentences, and I'm wondering if that's a reference to fungus are able to real life fungus are able to communicate with each other somehow.
Probably not.
But I don't think that's an intentional reference. The Happy Trolls, the Rice Krispies. This is weird. So I've seen this movie many times growing up. I have absolutely no memory of these 2 characters.
No.
And my sister, who was watching this with me, Sarah, who was our guest on the last episode, didn't remember them either. And I'm pretty sure after we finish this episode, they will once again leave my memory.
Most likely, yes.
That's sort of the most significant thing about them is there's nothing significant about them.
Mm. They have an ugly design, and
Yes.
they're there,
Yeah. They rhyme?
I guess.
Never leave much of an impression, but they rhyme.
They rhyme. It's good to hear.
Yeah, and
So rare.
finally we have Topaz, who's again doesn't have much of a character, but I do think she has a funny dynamic with Laverna.
She does.
Like,
Especially in the lair, she's just hanging out, sipping tea,
yeah.
having fun. Laverna's lair is just a sitcom of its own.
Because, yeah, Laverna is making cookies and giving them lessons on her evil plan. It's like, Laverna and Topaz are having a good time.
Right.
Despite each other, maybe. Maybe not. Topaz seems to be like... She enjoys Laverna's hospitality, and maybe doesn't know better than to not do that. But yeah, there's just like a... Anytime they cut back to Laverna's lair, there's something odd going on that is usually more interesting than whatever Alina's doing.
What's keeping the fairies from just sitting? Well, why are they just sitting in the chairs? Are they strapped down? Like, what's going on?
They must be.
It's something.
Yeah. I don't think we ever see Topaz outside of that chair.
Okay.
Like, I don't think she shows up in the beginning or the end.
It's glue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Pegasus glue. That's what it is.
Yep.
The next film is going to be the aftermath. It's like, oh, our brothers, they were turned into glue by Laverna. Anyway, I gave the characters a 3. Because they don't really stand out.
Yeah. 3 out of 5.
Compared to the other ones, yeah.
They're fine.
They're fine.
Alina could have been such a better protagonist. But she always just does the right thing to do in that moment.
Mm.
And the right thing is often leave her friends behind. Like you would think, because it's a repeated thing of, no, I'll go on ahead without you. Usually when a character does that, it's because they need to learn to rely on others.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Alina never has to rely on anyone else. She does just fine by herself. So, yeah, 3 out of 5 is, I think, appropriate for these characters.
Mm-hmm. And moving on to animation.
Animation this time around, it's not as much of an improvement as these have been, but again, this is 6 months after the last movie.
It's serviceable to what the story is.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I think what it does well is it has a lot of fun colors. It's much more colorful than all of these other Barbie movies, and sort of like a brighter, more saturated. Locations have more like specific color designs. You can tell that this was directed by a production designer.
Here's a question. Why are some fairies smaller than Alina?
I have no idea. And I think Dandelion is sometimes smaller than Alina and sometimes larger.
Sometimes the same size.
Sometimes the same size.
Like, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah. Besides that, I think the character design is pretty good.
Yeah, they're fine.
The fungus are suitably ugly. Laverna's wings, which I mentioned before, are like a really nice design touch. Hugh, the butterfly, his design works.
He's got that pilot jacket.
Yeah.
And scarf. But besides that, I wouldn't do that for Hugh. Just make it a butterfly with no personality.
The standout though are the I believe they're firebirds. Laverna's evil pterodactyl looking things.
Really?
I just like the spikies on their back. I thought it was a little bit clever.
Mm.
And then, yeah, overall good world design. The Magic Meadow has this sort of comforting, flowery, homey feel.
So I
That
think this is also the first time that our Barbie character has a different model than what's been used
okay,
previously. She looks different. Like
yeah.
her base model looks different as well, which is odd to see at first.
They must have developed this new model for the Fairytopia franchise.
They probably did.
They did save themselves a bit of animation work by not giving her wings for this movie.
But they also, if they did, it would save money by not having her walk
Yes.
as well. So, there's nothing technologically impressive about this film, like
Yeah.
the motion capture for the ballet or for fighting, or just basic movement in general. Here, it seems to look like they're starting to go more towards the hand-drawn animation, which is it does its job.
Yeah. There is motion capture in this. I wasn't able to find anything about this film's production online, but there are motion capture performers and technicians listed in the credits.
Okay.
I don't know for a lot of it though, since a lot of it is fairies flying around, there must not have been much motion capture.
It's probably all for Bibble.
Yes, Bibble obviously being the most important character to get realistic motion out of.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, his character design is probably the most baffling in the movie.
It's something.
But yeah, these locations, I mean, there's a lot of since they're doing a lot of locations, you get a lot more variety here, and that's kind of cool. There's my favorite is obviously the Withering Wood, as we've previously established on this podcast. I love anything that's spooky and dark,
Mm-hmm.
so that was my favorite. Mermaidia has a cool waterfall. There's another spooky forest that's kind of cool, though nothing happens in there. And Laverna's lair is just wonderful. I love the cactus design. It's very distinct from anything else in the movie. It does kind of look like the Emerald City from The Wizard of Oz, but it's different enough that the thought doesn't necessarily occur to you right away. Yep.
Different enough.
I will say this is the first of these Barbie movies where I've really felt the uncanny valley.
Really?
Now, rewatching clips from Princess and the Pauper, I can see the uncanny valley a bit more. But with this movie, maybe because I was less interested in the plot, but the faces are pretty expressive. There's just some expressions that people make, especially Bibble is making weird expressions. And
Yeah.
finally, my last note on this is another Barbie movie that actually has an aerial combat scene. Swan Lake being the first one. This one has Hugh and Alina fleeing these firebirds, which I thought was just such an odd thing. You wouldn't expect aerial combat scenes in one Barbie movie, let alone two.
I'm sure we're gonna get more.
Yeah, I don't remember if there are any more, but at this point it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, if the next film is called Magic of Pegasus, and Pegasus is a
Yeah,
flying horse.
yeah, that's a good point. I haven't seen Magic of Pegasus in a very long time, and I only saw it once as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep that in mind while watching that one.
There better be some. Nah, we better see a horse fly.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure we'll see a horse
With a
fly.
flying horse as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave the animation here a 3.5 out of 5. I like the color, I like the location design, but It's not incredible.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 because it serves its purpose, but it doesn't do. It's not wowing like
Yeah.
previous installments were.
Yeah, there isn't anything as inventive as some of the sequences in the last few movies.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have the voice acting. Kelly
Mm.
Sheridan is once again playing the protagonist here. This time, Alina, who, yeah, she's doing good work.
She does the best she can for the script.
Yeah.
They do try to do something different with her voice by making her speak a little bit higher a pitch than
Yes.
normal. But there's some scenes where she's speaking in her normal tone, which
Yeah.
was odd to hear that back and forth. I don't love the higher tone.
Yeah, me neither. I think that was the first thing I noticed,
Mm-hmm.
and once I got used to it, it didn't bother me. But I don't know why this is the first movie that they've gone that direction.
Right.
Yeah. As we saw in Princess and the Pauper, she can do good work
Mm-hmm.
when the script is supporting her in that process. And she can rise to the challenge of playing two characters who are distinct from each other. But here there's nothing challenging or even interesting about the role of Alina.
Yeah. Maybe one film we're gonna have an evil Barbie.
Yeah. I
That
wonder
would
if
be
she ever
fun.
gets to flex her villain skills.
Cause like she can do it. She's good.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Next up, I have highlighted Kathleen Barr,
Mm-hmm.
who, again, as we mentioned before, this is the first Barbie movie to not have a celebrity actor in the role of the villain. And I think Kathleen Barr does a good job. She isn't nearly as memorable as Tim Curry or Martin Short, but she's playing this role well, and she maybe gives the best performance of the movie.
So about this character,
Yes.
Kathleen also plays a villain in the My Little Pony show, which is pretty much the same voice
Oh, okay.
and also a bug-like creature,
Huh.
which is interesting. When
Yeah.
just watching this, it's like, huh, that's that character. Okay.
Okay.
So
I didn't.
that's why the character stood out to me a bit more because it was that voice.
Yeah. I did not realize that connection. Yeah, and then the final vocal performance I um highlighted here was Lee Talker, who plays the fungus and of course Bibble. Um, who is annoying, but I admire the commitment. Much
Mm.
like O'Deal in Swan Lake, this is a performance that I don't enjoy listening to, but I think the voice actor is doing a good work here, creating this specific character.
I had mentioned to you earlier that I was amused by this actor voicing Bibble.
Yes.
Because, like, I know this actor from playing characters in My Little Pony, but he's also plays a character in the Bionicle movies. And
Oh.
he's the voice of Makuta, the villain.
Huh.
That dark voice is like, my shadows are everywhere. And so, like, just watching Bibble, I just can't help but imagine hearing Makuta's voice out of Bibble's mouth. So I I want you to just try and visualize this. Make a mental note for later, maybe doing some kind of video on that show.
Yeah. That's interesting. I had no familiarity with this actor, so I
Mhm.
just kind of assumed that he was known for doing Bibble like voices.
He is. He's known for doing the annoying characters, but
Okay.
Makuta is just one of those that is just a weird one that he belongs to,
Okay.
and he's a Bibble.
Yeah. Sounds like
Yeah.
very different performances.
Besides that, everyone else, I know a bunch of these people. They're doing fine jobs, but
Yeah,
that's about it.
we have a lot of people from other Barbie movies.
Hmm.
Kathleen Barb played Serafina in the last movie. Venus Terzo plays Azura here. She played Lila the Unicorn. We also have Alessandro Giuliani, who played Julian in the last movie. He's playing Prince Nalu. Michael Dobson has been in a few of these.
Yeah.
Brian Drummond has been in a few of these. So we are definitely seeing this sort of talent coming back over and over again to do more of these Barbie movies.
Yeah, I mean, if you have them,
Yeah.
might as well.
Yeah. You know they can do the work, so
They can do the work.
yeah. Overall, I give the voice acting a 4 out of 5. I think everyone's doing a good job, but there's no performance that stood out to me as like really good.
Yeah, I went down to a 3.5 because of that. Like, it does a serviceable job, but none of them really stand out. And like for Kelly's fifth film, it's not my favorite performance.
Yeah. Well, on to the music.
Music.
I don't have many notes here. I
Nope.
love the theme song that plays over the opening, but the rest of the music kind of does its job. I
Yep.
never really noticed it,
Yep.
which is a double-edged sword. It means that the music isn't standing out for being bad, but it also isn't standing out for being good. So it's just kind of there. I listened a bit to the soundtrack after watching the movie just to kind of listen to some of the music without the movie, and nothing really jumped out at me.
Yeah, it's also one of the soundtracks that doesn't sound like they're using a professional orchestra and are instead
Yeah,
using just whatever tools that most cartoons of the 2000s would use to make music without spending much money on it.
yeah,
So,
and I couldn't find any notes about how the production of the soundtrack worked. But Arnie Roth, who has done the soundtracks for most of these Barbie movies so far, didn't do the soundtrack for this one, and he usually works with an orchestra.
yeah,
So I wouldn't be surprised if in this movie they didn't have the same resources in terms of the music department.
right. I mean, they again, this film is 6 months after Princess and the Pauper, so they're working overtime now.
Yeah, and they did bring in like the director, the writers, the score are all different people have been brought in for that.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a parallel team of Barbie movie creators. But yeah, I gave the music a 4 out of 5.
I give it a 3.5 because it was a slight. It does its job, but it's a slight step down in quality
Yeah,
compared to the previous ones.
yeah.
Which makes my total a score of 16, which is on the same line as Nutcracker.
Yep, I have a score of 18. A little bit above Nutcracker, a little bit below Swan Lake.
Yeah. Which is
Um,
64% for me and 3.2 5-star rating.
yep, I have a 72% overall, which is a 3.6 out of 5. Our average is 3.4 out of 5 or 68%.
Hmm.
So I think that puts us overall between Nutcracker and Swan Lake. So a definite step down from
Yeah.
last movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that this has been Binging Barbie. We appreciate you all for listening, and join us next week. We will have Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus, Barbie's first 3D adventure.
Ooh,
Yeah,
3D.
hopefully it doesn't. It's not too scary.
Hopefully.
I can't imagine the
Scary
3D
Barbie
will
movie?
be.
My goodness.
That would be.
How
That's what they need. They need a Barbie Halloween
yeah.
movie.
How 3D are you hoping this next film to be?
Now, so I've read the back of the DVD case for this. I did actually go on eBay and purchase a DVD copy because I want to see it in 3D. But it does say that there are only 15 minutes of 3D in the movie.
What?
Yeah. So I'm keeping my expectations a little bit low, but
Wow.
I'm hoping for something good. Um, but yeah, join us next week. And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. Our Twitter is at Binging Barbie, where we have a link to all of our other social media. You can follow us on Instagram, where hopefully we'll be posting memes soon. And you can also follow
Oh,
us on Letterboxd. There I keep an up-to-date list of all of our rankings of the Barbie movie if you're ever curious about where a movie falls. And yeah, thanks for listening.